Hey, I'm Dave. Welcome to Shop Talk. We're going to jump right into some viewer questions from the videos over the last week. I'll be joined by my co-host, Glenn. How you doing, Glenn?
I'm doing really well, Dave. And you got a bit of a task ahead of you here.
All
so
right.
You did that video on Dave's Garage about why the web was down. And we got like 3,000 comments on there. So first question here, I'm going to quote a couple guys. Sean YS, JK Fastener. It's always DNS, right, Jeff Geerling? And JK Fastener, DNS. It's always DNS. What's new? What's the deal, Dave?
Well, DNS is probably one of the most fundamental things about the internet that has to work. And it's the conversion of your domain name, like google.com, to a number like 10.0.0.7, which would not be the one it would use because I'm just making up a number. But it's the conversion of that name to the number, and the number is the actual machine. And the number is required to find the machine. The machine can move around. It can move around from hour to hour, from day to day, week to week, and that number will change. So you always have to get the most recent number that goes associated with the name. That's like a big phone book. And the problem in this case was that people who had dependencies on the one particular data center and on DNS resolution of a database within that particular zone and were hard tied to it, when the DNS went down in that zone, it didn't matter that you could do it in other zones in Europe and everywhere else because they were tied inextricably to this one particular failover zone. And when DNS went down in that region, it crippled all their services, even sometimes around the world, because maybe they have something running in Europe, but if you're writing an ATM software package and you're trying to do transactions and so on, you need some amount of communication. You can run active and then synchronize later, but that's hard for monetary transactions. And what ends up happening is that things that are totally otherwise independent are still dependent on that one little piece of DNS running inside that one little failover zone that went down. And so you had massive failures because of it. And so once you lose that ability to rationalize a name into the number, that is like one of the most fundamental things you can lose. And that's why we had such a problem.
So we've got these DNS centers, I guess?
Yeah, well, it's not so much that this DNS is distributed and global, but some of them are only available on a particular DNS server in an area. And so there might be an older, stale copy of the information at a global scope that's available, but it's not the current updated. I don't want to rat hole too far into DNS and stuff like that, but in terms of failover, what you've got is, let's say you've got a system, and we'll say banking as an example. So you're running the ATM system for some bank. And so you've got obviously lots of failover. It can fail around from one city to another city in America. But let's say that all of America goes dark and your system has to fail over to England. If it has to communicate back with the American one every time there's a transaction, to update your bank records, and the American one is down, well, then now the European one is crippled. So what you really want is them running totally independently, what they call active, and then they have to somehow cross-reference transactions when one comes back up. And that's hard for monetary and other transaction-based services. But, I mean, it's been done for 50 years, so there are ways around it. It's just a lot harder, and you have to kind of design for it. So if you're building a BBS or a system to do AI chat or anything like that, if you want your contacts and your user accounts to roam, when one area goes dark, they can't all be dependent on one single source in anywhere, because that one where could go down, and that's what happened here.
And that's what the comment he made. Again, I'm not going to get the technical part right, but these IT folks sort of had multiple failover systems, but in the end, all those failover systems all ended up back on East 1.
Well, they all had a dependency on East 1, so they couldn't run, right.
Okay. Now, Kitchen ASMR says, okay, so DNS was the spark that lit the fire, but what struck the spark? He says, everyone's so focused on the aftermath and follow-up, but why did DNS fail to begin with?
That's something I don't know. I don't know if they've actually said so far. I know when it went down. I don't know why it went down. So I don't have a good answer. They have a pretty good timeline on, DNS stopped resolving for the MongoDB at this time and came back up at this time. And then you've got all the repercussions and the fallout from it. But I don't know the reason to why it went down.
Okay. XOXO 2008 OXOX. So from their perspective, the summary is that someone was patching the DNS component and it went south. Then the load balancers lost it without DNS being correct, but it was all resolved by 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So any idea how much? 6
a.m. maybe.
Yeah,
6
that
p.m.?
should be 6. No, well.
It feels like 6 a.m., but.
I'm not sure what they're referring to. It may be the full impact of it, may not. Anyway, how much did those 18 hours cost? Like, is anyone...
I don't think it was an 18-hour outage, but I mean, the repercussions probably did last for that long, especially for some services they scaled down and scaled back up and so on. Yeah, the costs are huge, and they're going to be shared and borne by everybody who, either uses those services or depends on those services. If you just can't use TikTok for a couple hours or whatever outage you're experiencing, that's one thing. But if you're losing money because you can't process customer orders or do bookings because you're an airline, now you're talking real money. So
Jerry Falwell's pool boy says, so only one AWS region was down. He says, any company that had a complete outage did not design their services properly, redundancy and failover. He says, or am I just ignorant? I think it was kind of the point you made in your presentation.
Yeah, that was kind of the point of the video, is that there is extra work to be done. That work's not at zero cost. And so people have to invest in that in advance. Otherwise, you find out when your pants are down that, hey, we're not as fail-safe as we thought.
Yeah, so David Holder makes the point. He says you hit on a good point in that presentation, the cost-cutting over redundancy.
Right.
Said engineers understand the need for redundancy, but the finance departments often delay hardware refresh cycles or software hardware updates to sweat the asset, sort of. Is it time for a he asked the question, is it time for a governance-oriented approach that balances financial control with technical resilience?
No, I don't really want to see the government involved, except perhaps in the instances of utilities and financial sector, that kind of thing, where the government is normally involved. But no, I don't need them monitoring Amazon's uptime and stuff like that, except for cases where, perhaps it is for public health and safety, fire, or whatever, those kind of things. Has
there been any information or thing about companies that have they made changes in response to this that you're aware of?
I would assume that there's a lot of companies that now realize they had a singular dependency that, in the boardroom, they had no idea. The devs might have known, and very few devs, and the people that really understood the architecture might have known, and the ops people. But that's going to be a small subset of people in a company that has a product, and now they find out that they're down. So, yeah, now everybody knows.
And I guess the IT folks maybe now have another couple of items in their toolbox and to sort of go to battle with the finance folks and say,
I wasn't being facetious in my episode about pulling cables out and stuff, because you really do need to trigger your failure cases and see how they get handled. Even in the home lab, it's as simple as, well, you make 3 backups. You got, your 3 types of backups, but do you ever restore the second and third and check that they're viable? Or you just check the first backup? Well, if you haven't checked the second and offsite backups to make sure they're restorable to your actual iron, you're making a big assumption that may not work out. So
yeah, it's kind of like the fire drill or the earthquake drill, or depending on what region you're in, it's like, oh, what do we have to do these stupid things for? And then all of a sudden the ground shakes and you go, oh my God. It does help, but yeah, it's not a lot of folks. But Omar Munoz says, the real question from a financial perspective, did Amazon breach their service level agreements of 99.99% monthly uptime? And are people getting credit?
Yeah, not that I've heard. So I'm assuming their service guarantee was, if your system was built correctly, it will stay up. Whether they guarantee an SLA for a particular failover zone within a data center within a zone, I have no idea. I'm not at that level of using AWS or anything. So,
and then he also asks, on the technical side, do you think building with multi-region or multi-cloud with true HA is avoided because of the money or difficulty from an engineering standpoint?
I think multi-cloud is difficult, but multi-region is probably budgetary. And so it's a cost that I think a lot of companies just kind of need to suck up and take it, because otherwise you have outages. Which do you want? Can't pick none.
I know I always like to every now and then throw some of these who haven't done it for a while, a couple of sort of folks making some snarky comments here. So George Schuster says, how can someone claiming to be a software engineer make a stupid comment about the web being down? AWS had service issues. The web is just fine. Clickbait.
Clickbait a little bit, but you know what? People that experienced that outage, not the techs, not the ops, but the actual human beings who went to united.com and there was no web page there, the web's down for them. So if they're trying to go to a website or a web property and it's a web-based service and now they're not available, the web is down. Not the whole web. I mean, it's a thumbnail. You can only put so many words in there, and it can't be, the web is down due to a limited EWS outage and it's only in these regions and so on. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Agree. It is some amount of clickbait. I will confess that, but it's also true clickbait. So I kind of go with that.
From my experience, I got to work and logged in. I'm like, well, something's like a couple sites that I accessed regularly weren't quite working. They were sort of there, but not loading the data. And I was like, what the heck? I just blamed our own IT guys. I was like, something probably happened down at City Hall. Not to realize until later that it was a much bigger issue. And then Nabu219 says, how is AWS counting as the whole web? I don't think that was your presumption or your statement.
I didn't say the entire web was down.
Exactly. Yeah.
I guess it's implicit in the web is down. So.
Yeah. Now we'll go
but
to
again,
Pat.
it's the user experience that I was referring to, not the whole totality of the technical accuracy.
Yeah. Pat Farrell, KTM, says, very nice explanation. When I was doing system architecture, every marketing guy said, must be 24/7 uptime. And I'd ask, how serious are you about that? Because the cost can vary by perhaps 5 times, depending how serious they are.
Yeah, there used to be a saying in the car business, the speed part business was when you go to buy a new carburetor for your muscle car, and the old guy at the desk would be like, speed costs money, kid. How fast do you want to go? And anything is like that. Resiliency costs money. How resilient do you want to be? It's always going to be a budgetary trade-off, but you have to pick the point that you can't accept the pain of that particular style of outage and then design and budget for that.
Yeah, I think my mechanic has a sign in his shop that says we can do it fast, good, or cheap, whichever two. Yeah.
Yeah, my buddy Jim had the famous one you've probably seen 1,000 times, where it's shop rates $100 if you watch, $150 if you help, $200. Yeah.
Yeah, and another one is price is subject to change according to customer's attitude.
Yep.
Notice FPV. I'm a regular tech person, not a tech person, which is to say I was lost on most of the specifics, but I was able to follow your analogies. You gave me enough information to talk to my head of IT and say, man, yesterday was rough, huh? I've seen your videos before, but don't remember you being this funny before. Keep it up. So there's a good comment for you, Dave.
Well, thank you.
And then the other thing, a whole bunch of people too, Bob Shy here's and LVV Cass, the web was down. Did I sleep through it? Was it down? Didn't notice. So again,
well, it
for a lot
impacted
of
you
folks,
more if you were in England or on the East Coast, because it was a very early morning outage. So a lot of people slept through it, got up, and by breakfast, on the West Coast anyway, things were almost back to normal, except for services that were still coming back up slowly and stuff. But the actual DNS outage and stuff was fixed. So it depends when you woke up, what time zone you were in, that kind of thing. It was not an extended downtime. It was just a widespread short outage, I guess you would call it.
Curious B58 says, really well done, Dave. As a fellow prairie Canadian living in the USA, I was impressed at how swiftly you put this together. Nice. Do you want to, I know the story behind that. Do you want to indicate how that episode came to be a little bit?
No, I don't remember. What was my story with it? You tell us.
Well, no, I think you just said you sort of got, I mean, you get up pretty early, so you get up and you're like, well, hey, what the heck? Something seems a little bit off. And then you realize what's happening. You're like, oh, wow, geez, I should do an episode on this. So bam, you just kind of threw the thing together that morning and ran out to the shop. Talk to the camera.
Yeah, the problem I
together.
faced was I couldn't actually film the episode because my teleprompter software is cloud-based and it wouldn't run. So then I was stuck on the Mac App Store looking for prompter software, and I bought one and wasted money on it, and then I bought another one, and it was okay, and did my episode with a different prompter and stuff, so it was a little different for me. But yeah, I've found that there's a pretty good appetite for topical information from, I guess, I don't want to say an expert, but that people appreciate that level of expertise and technical dive on something that's really topical. Because if you go and watch the news, you're just going to get some of the impact and how people at the airport are feeling about it, as opposed to what's actually going on. So that's what I try to do.
Free cycling, 6687. What does this imply for Amazon's ability to recover in the case of a disaster? Seems they might need to take out those dusty old DR plans, blow them off, and smooth off the rough edges.
Well, again, I don't think this was necessarily an Amazon outage. It was an Amazon service that went down, and people had outages because they were dependent on services in that region. So I believe the system is architected so that if you had a service and it was properly designed and implemented at extra cost, it could have survived this outage, and I'm sure many did. So.
Yeah, and also a good reminder of how reliant we are on all this internet stuff. And if it was a real disaster and a bunch of centers start coming down, it's going to have implications and ripple through.
Yeah, like if YouTube and Twitter don't work, then you're screwed.
Man, yeah,
that morning, YouTube worked for me and Twitter worked, and I think Facebook was kind of sketchy, but
if that stuff goes down, I'm going to have to actually do work at work. So, yeah.
Well, it depends what time zone you're in and when you get up.
That's right. I usually wake up shortly after I get to work. DRZI3WZ, DNS again. Haven't they already learned that lesson? Is this the 6th or 7th failure in the last 25 years?
I don't know. I haven't been keeping track. I didn't do the research on how many such outages. I mean, there's lots of DNS outages. This was not a global DNS outage. It was an outage for a particular important system.
Oh, Turkentube has I think he's got the answer here. Did they try turning it off and back on? Is that how they resolved this?
You would think they tried rebooting it. I bet they did. I bet you that's how they fixed it. No, I don't know.
But we'll say that's how it was fixed. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's slightly more complicated, but that's essentially. Alcar 32 Sharif. When a distributed system becomes so centralized that everything depends on one single location, what could possibly go wrong? Is that an issue? Do we really have centralization, or is it more of some IT folks in certain sectors thought they had decentralization?
It's whoever implements their system. So if United Airlines builds a reservation system for their airline and they distribute it, but everybody is required to use a central sign-on authorization or some other provider database, and that database fails, then everything goes down. So it's not that Amazon will never have uptime or downtime, pardon me, but it is that you need to design to be able to accommodate it when it happens. I think I'm beating that horse pretty dead.
Yeah, and Red Squirrel's going to beat it again here. He says, every time these outages happen, it just makes me kind of dumbfounded as such a big chunk of the internet relies on a single cloud company, and to some extent it's also vendor locked. Does no one know how to build web applications on bare metal servers anymore?
Well, that comes with its own set of risks and costs. But I don't want to be an Amazon apologist here, but I don't want people to think that some chunk of Amazon went down and it was inescapable, that everybody who was dependent on Amazon went down. Because that's not what happened. It was part of Amazon's system went down. And if your system was dependent on that little part of it, then you were hooped. And so it was kind of not a perfect storm, but a bad storm.
Okay. Leo's thriving with autism. He says, and this is why I have a rack here in my apartment with local Internet of Things that requires no internet connection. I just connect to the net every so often for an update. That's it. I basically operate off the internet grid for most things.
Yeah, I'm very net dependent, but I have most of my home stuff, all my security, all my routing, all my camera, even my own DNS is all done here. So I'm pretty independent in that sense. All of my automation is local, so I have no cloud services. I used to have a Ring doorbell camera, but I got rid of that and I went Unify, so that's also on-prem. So yeah, I think everything I've got now that's important is pretty much all on-prem. So it's only truly external stuff. Like if I go to watch YouTube and it's down, then I'll notice. But
Unverge Benid. Why does your teleprompter need the cloud?
I don't know. Probably to check your subscription and make sure you're paying. There is a cloud service where you can sync your scripts, through their login. I don't need that. Here's a text file. Scroll it for me. That's all I want. It's got all these cloud features, and then they don't work, and then it can't even scroll a text file when the cloud is down. So
yeah. And Hinged Elephant piles on and says, "Why the F is your teleprompter in the cloud? Localize it." And then he quotes,
I did.
"The resiliency you don't practice is the resiliency you don't have."
And now I have it because I practice local teleprompting.
Yeah, your own medicine. Scratch an itch. Were there any success stories? I'd like to hear them.
I would too, but I don't know of any. But okay. I mean, there had to be companies that dodged this bullet because their systems were properly designed and implemented. And I guess I would also like to know what examples of that there might have been.
Mr. Nil Orange says, kind of the whole point of ARPANET was nuclear hardened communications with no single points of failure. That's what packet switching is. That's why it's called the web. What the heck?
Yeah, but even then, there's still root DNS name servers, and those are pretty resilient. I mean, I don't think there's ever been a successful, distributed denial of service against all the root name servers yet. But there
Did
still
you just
are
qualify that?
Yet? I'm a busy man, but so just by naming and lookup, there are going to be single points of failures in terms of services. Now, DNS doesn't have a single point of failure. It's not like there's a box in somebody's office, and if that box goes down, everybody's screwed. But there are many boxes, and if all those boxes went down at the same time, then you could have, or if some other calamity happened, then if you lost the root name servers, you wouldn't have an internet effectively.
So in this instance, if this failure at East 1 had lasted 2, 3, 4 days, are there some DNS addresses that are just going to be unresolved for that period of time because they exist solely in this one place that's no longer connected?
No, but the outage could last that long for a website like, I don't know, I'm not picking on United, but it's just the one I keep coming back to, that if their authorization, like when you go to log into United.com, if they are dependent on that one particular DNS entry, then as long as that DNS is down, the rest of their stuff is down because you can't log in. So their United.com website might be hosted on, 8 different clouds, but if it's still dependent on that one service, it's like a linchpin. Cool. And you'll be down until you either work around it, but how do you work around it? You can update their website, but all the phone apps would have to be re-updated and everything else. So if they're not designed to fall over to a second region or zone automatically, not much you can do.
AXA. Geez, Dave, is your identity as a human being really just your time at Microsoft?
No, but on this show, it's probably going to be because you really want to tune in and hear me talk about carburetors or raising children. I have done other things in my life besides Microsoft, but when it comes to doing Windows trivia on a podcast, it's got to be mostly Microsoft.
And I think, in the early days, that's how you introduce yourself in every video. And I think in the last year, at least, that hi, I'm Dave, retired Microsoft engineer, only sort of gets pulled out when you're talking about some technical stuff and trying to
about Microsoft stuff now,
some validity to the content you're about to provide. So
yeah.
Who the fox cares? Is there a security issue when 2 huge countries use the same country code? Canada's is +1. Can't the USA afford its own?
My wife called 911 last week. Because we have a PBX in our house, so you have to dial 9 to get an outside line.
Right.
And then she was trying to call Europe, and I think instead of going 011, she just went 11, but it hit 9. And the phone is smart enough to go, if somebody picks up and hits 911, they don't want to call 11, they want to call 911, apparently. So it called. And then she hung up because she got scared or something. So they call back, and I answer in the shop, and I'm like, hello. And he's like, this is the King County Sheriff. What's going on there? And I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. So that was kind of an uncomfortable moment, but we figured it out.
Holy cow. This is another one I think we talked about. North Virginia? Did you mean lowercase n Virginia?
I don't know. I'm going to explain this, man. There's North Virginia, South Virginia, East Virginia, West Virginia. There's 4 of them. I grew up in Canada. We had the best educational system in the world.
Only 2 of those are states, though.
I don't know.
2 of them are regions, right?
Canada's got like 10 provinces. How am I going to master 50 states? I'd have to live here 5 times as long.
You've been there twice as long. Yeah, I see you're 2/5 of it, 40%. Yeah.
And I know at least 40% of the states. That's why I know Virginia.
I think you and I had probably a 3-minute conversation trying to figure that out. Lady Rainbow Unicorn, did you do this video in one shot without a script?
No, I had a script and many edits.
You're
But
just
I read it all in one take, if that helps, but there were mistakes along the way. So.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah.
Where I would back up and then edit it.
C12345-R. Is that PDP real?
Yes.
Excellent.
Just added an RA82 drive to it today. 600 megabytes, 200 pounds.
You added it yesterday, just got it working today. Right?
Got it working today. Added it in the logical sense today, added it in the physical sense yesterday. So.
Excellent, yeah. The clarification for clarification's sake. Wayne Schmidt, my own PDP dutifully served their web pages. That's a quote from you. He says, this episode, super cool. That line, that made my morning. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I appreciate that. Contrarian Programmer 2181. Why not consider OpenVMS? Now we're talking about the VAX versus versus Pi thing. Why not consider OpenVMS? It has a non-commercial version and Ambassador.
I tried to get a license for OpenVMS, and I could not quite figure out the process. I didn't look very hard. I just I went through the OpenVMS installer, got the CD, mounted it up, got it on my VAX, went through it, ran it, and got to the point where it goes, hey, you need a license. So I kind of Googled around for a while, didn't find an easy way to get a license except for like applying to the OpenVMS Foundation or something. And I thought, I'll run Unix. No, it wasn't that flippant, but That's as far as I got it. So if the guy that bought the machine from me wants to run VMS, it's basically at the point where you can just enter your license and continue. So I didn't use VMS. I used it a bit in school, in college, and I used it none for recreation and none for my own education other than running the projects that we had to turn in on VMS and compile on VMS. So I don't have a lot of nostalgia for VMS. It's a great system and clustering is amazing and all that, but because I just don't have time with it, I'm not that fond of it. It's kind of like the imply. It's a cool machine, and I have one,
right.
But I didn't have an imply back in the day. I wasn't that cool. So
Just Liberty says, it's kind of depressing that I ran many of the simulations that formed the basis of my PhD work on PDPs and VAXs. I could have run them on a Pi that's the size of a watch I wore at the time. Ugh.
yes.
Still amazing what they can cram into a tiny little...
Yeah, I was thinking as I'm running my Tempest simulation, I sometimes have to sit here or wait hours for it to get enough training going on and all that. And I'm thinking computers now are literally millions of times faster than the old ones. So, they never probably will be in a linear sense, but maybe there will be one day computers that are a million times as fast as what we have today. And so then it could just crank out the work I'm doing now in an instant instead of many hours or a day. And it would be equivalent to that. It's like those simulations he ran on his PDP probably just kick out in seconds on a Pi.
Ed Tompkins says, will you share your Drhystone code?
Yeah, it's on my GitHub. GitHub/DavePL/PDP source BSD Drhystone. Something like that. You'll find it. It's under there. Oh, DavePL/GitHub. No.
Yeah,
wait.
Get you.
GitHub.com/DavePL. Sorry.
I'll find a thing, put it on there. Jody Vesser, I'd be super interested in a video about AI code generation utilizing unit testing. Dave, any plans to throw one of those in the queue?
No, but I'll try to remember that because I did a vibe coding episode a while ago, and maybe that was the wrong thing to have called it, but it wasn't wildly popular or anything, so I haven't spent much focus on it. But I do a lot of, I don't want to call it vibe coding, but AI-assisted coding. I don't know how to make it into an episode, but I'll see what I can do. Because I've got the new ChatGPT Codex, the $200 a month baby. I'm paying for that now, and it's pretty impressive.
And now you said, we were talking the other night, you said you've got that, but you gave up something else, and that's sort of too bad because you used to sort of have them duel against you.
Yeah, I gave up Anthropic, Claude.
Oh, Anthropic, yeah.
But I'm using Grok to check the work from OpenAI and vice versa. So that has been pretty successful. And you can run them at the same time, which is a cool thing.
And to feed them back into each other, it's just basically copy-paste kind of stuff, is it?
You don't even have to. They can both see your source files. You don't want two making changes to it at the same time, but you can have one thinking, what would you do next if I had you fix this issue? And then you can go to the other one and say, well, he's thinking, go do this. Because I'm impatient. I hate waiting for the AI to do stuff. So you've got two AIs working, they can be tag teaming. And
video it someday. Throw it together, see what happens. Yep. SS Manoa, I really appreciate your very informative, entertaining, and pleasant conversations. As someone who hasn't written code since BASIC in the 80s on a Commodore 64 and HP 2000, would trying to learn Python make sense using AI to mostly come up with the code? And then could you make an episode for beginners on using AI to write Python code?
I don't know if I'm the right person to do that kind of an introductory to Python episode, but you definitely could use AI to learn Python, and it's exactly how I've learned Python. Now, I haven't learned as much Python as I could because I'm having AI write a lot of it and a lot of the more complicated stuff, syntactically. Yeah. And so it generates Python that is above my pay grade as a Python programmer. And so if I was starting from first principles and building to that point, I would know way more than having it just dump this, Python with sets and all this kind of stuff that I may not be used to yet. So I think if you want to learn it, the best way to do it is to write the code from scratch initially. And you can ask AI for assistance. But if you're just asking it to vibe code and spew code and you're watching, it's kind of like watching foreign television. You don't really learn the language.
Felice Enelin says, hey, Dave, I came down to Seattle on a TN work permit too, same as you. It was a pain going to the border. Otherwise, a great deal. She ended up marrying an American and staying. But it sounds like you were already married, though. So what was your path to a more long-term visa? Did Microsoft sponsor you?
No, you have to get your own attorney and everything else. But sponsor in the sense they paid the legal bills.
Okay.
So as an employee benefit, that if you're going through an immigration process at that time, they would cover the cost, and they probably assigned me up with the attorney who, had done 5,000 other Microsoft employees for all I know. So they can't grease the wheels in terms of the process with the government, but they can take over some of the administrivia for you, which helps.
What was the time frame between your sort of first trip down there when you started as a full-time employee at Microsoft and you were on visas for 4 years, 5 years? Till you became
I was on a TC visa the first time, Trade Canada, because that was before Mexico was admitted into NAFTA. A couple of years on that, and then I was on a TN visa, a couple of years on that. And I think I then went to an H-1B, which is basically your green card.
Okay.
But I don't remember if I ever had an H-1B. I must have, because I think you have to have an H-1B to apply for citizenship. So eventually I got my green card. And then once I had my green card for maybe 5 to 7 years, I then applied for citizenship, which probably took another 5 years. So it had to be 12 to 15 years before I was naturalized.
So when did you become a citizen then? 2000, like 6 or 7 or something?
No, was it that long? Yeah, I guess it would be early 2000s.
Because you got down there in 92, right?
93.
93. Oh, yeah. So.
Yeah, if it was 12 years, that'd be 2005. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to look. I'm not sure, but that sounds about right.
Okay. And your wife became a U.S. citizen at the same time. You both went through the process together?
Yes, although mine took way longer than hers. I get denied for everything. If there's a waiting period, they double it for me, and I don't know why. There's got to be some guy named Dave Plummer in the States that's dangerous or something.
Yeah,
so.
There we go. Are the fish. Hey, Dave, would you ever consider taking one of your antique machines to a computer show like Usagi or LGR?
If I had something a little more portable, I would. And maybe my Kim 1. The problem is I'd have to get one of those awesome, the stainless steel cases that you see in Mission Impossible and everything else. And there's a name for them, but to pack the thing in, because I just don't want to throw a Kim 1 in a box, especially I've got a Kim 1 stack, which is a cage with a back plane and a whole bunch of boards that go in, but it's a very, not homemade, but a very early system. It's not in a case, it's just in a bent sheet metal construction. And so I don't want to throw that in a suitcase. But if I had something portable that was interesting, then I would take it.
There you go. Do you need to be invited to something like that, or do you invite yourself?
Yes,
or do you,
I do.
Okay, yeah.
I tend not to seek them out, but I've gone to not most of them I've been invited to, but I've gone to many things that I have been invited to, like DCF and so on.
Yeah.
If I don't hear from them, I don't go.
That's right. Mughug 9616. Were you an MCSE on Windows NT?
I was not. I have no certifications. It wasn't really necessary for what we were doing, so.
You didn't need to be certified? Just capable and competent?
I mean, I knew my areas very well, but there was sure lots of server administration that I knew very little about, except for playing around with the management applets. So,
okay, a couple ones
Lots
here.
to
So,
know.
Pi for you. Hoping for simplicity. Windows 11 program tabs. And you talked before someone had a question about things appearing in front of the thing, and I think this is along the same lines. Windows 11 program tabs appear across the top of the display. Good. Program tabs appear across the taskbar. Also bad. How can I get them off the taskbar while open?
I don't think you can. I think they're supposed to be on the taskbar while they're open.
Okay, there you go.
That's a design decision they made, if I understand the question correctly. And you're stuck with that behavior.
Okay, cool. Security camera 8776. Someone had asked a question about the clip at the end. We got the do it, land, do it.
Oh, yeah.
We mentioned the Flintstones. Subdural Hematoma. That's the Flintstones clip. Was based on an earlier show. Ben Casey, where he was a brain surgeon who checked everyone for a subdural hematoma. Well, the little guy was Dr. Zorba, and his job was to give Ben, not Len, grief about checking or not checking for a subdural hematoma. He says, I know this because I am old, and there were only 2 television stations, no cable, and streaming was done at 110 baud. I'm going to lie down now. I'm having a splitting subdural hematoma.
I never watched Dr. Ben Casey, but I was aware of him. But the Flintstones episode for sure is a parody of that show. And that particular Flintstones episode, I believe, they have the personality transporter machine, and so the big helmets come down, and Fred and Barney get switched, and Fred and Dino get switched.
Yes, yeah, it's a classic. Like
I think I was in about
105.
grade 1 or 2, and we had to write a story, and I wrote the story basically from that episode, having seen that episode, a day or two before, which was on the one hand total plagiarism, but hey, I was 7 years old. So. What are you gonna do?
So you got an early start to plagiarism? Is that what you're saying?
Now I'm a master. Now with AI, it's so easy.
Yeah. What'd you put in all that effort for when you were 7? You should have just waited. Yeah, I'll solve that for you. Like every other problem we have. And no need to check on it either, because it's right the first time.
It says so.
Yeah. Last one here from GR Britain. I'm going to call him Great Britain. Maybe that's not what he means. At the 3904 mark of our last video on Shop Talk, there's a hard cut. And it comes back in with you both smiling and laughing. Can you share what was said just before that? And it's funny because we actually I had left it in there. And then you were like, yeah, you don't have to leave everything in there. You can cut that.
What was it? I don't remember what it was now.
Well, I think we've sort of been joking about it for a while, about a lot of the YouTube videos now at the end, they just hard cut and they're done. They
and I yelled into the microphone and stuff.
So we were going along and then you all of a sudden, that's a and you just rambled something into the mic and we both laughed. And I left it in there because I thought it was kind of funny. But when you hit the mic, you hit it so darn hard. It was just like unintelligible. And you're like,
loud.
you don't, you're just giving me some feedback on the editing. You don't have to leave everything. Like, for example, that could be cut out. So I had fixed a couple other things and ended up chopped it. But the best chop I could make, it's still, you and I came back with these shit-eating grins on our face or whatever. Like we had just heard the funniest thing and
the only way to save that might have been to drop the level way down for that little section and then put a closed caption of what the heck I was actually saying, because you can't hear me, right?
I don't know what you said.
Oh, me either. So we're screwed. That's why we took it out.
I was like, well, I don't know. Yeah, but it was funny to me, so I left it in there. But
I think it was basically, thank you, you've been great, good night, click.
Anyway, so thank you. Good night. You've been great. Goodbye. No, we're not ending that quick, but we are done. So I'll hand it back to you and you let folks know whatever you want to tell them about what we do here and how it works.
Well, if you're still here, I'd appreciate if you'd be subscribed to the channel by now, because if you're still here, you're one of the very few that make it to the last 30 seconds of the episode. And I appreciate that because I'm here. Good to have you here too. If you would consider subscribing to the channel, leaving a like on the video, we'd appreciate it. And of course, tell your friends, sign in next week, and we will see you next week here in Shop Talk. Thank you, Glenn, and I'll talk to you later. This little chair will be waiting for one of you, and a rocking chair for another who likes to rock, and a big armchair for two to curl up in. All next time on Dave's Garage.